Good morning and welcome to the EZFX trading room for August 9th, 2016, Tuesday. My name is Bradley Freed. In the next 20 minutes to half an hour, we're going to go through our watch list, which we reviewed yesterday, and chart by chart, check these currency pairs, see how our trades are progressing, which trades have opened, which trades have closed, and also if there are any new trades that we find. I'm going to introduce those to you and explain the setup and how we're going to trade them. If you have any questions during this broadcast, we have a chat room set up on the page. You can post your questions during the broadcast, and at the end, I will answer your questions live. Also, if you're watching the recording, you have a question, please either private message me via the community, post to the trading room group, or you can send an email to ezfxsignal@gmail.com. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and review yesterday's watch list. We didn't have any watching trades. We didn't have any trading results as of yesterday for the week. But we did have two new trades, Euro Yen buy and Swiss Yen buy, that we were looking at getting into. Our open trades were Dollar Yen buy, CAD Yen buy, Aussie Yen buy, Dollar Peso sell, Euro Dollar sell, New Zealand Dollar sell, Dollar Swiss buy, Euro Pound sell, Pound CAD buy, Pound New Zealand buy, Pound Aussie buy, and Pound Swiss buy. Let's go ahead and jump over to the charts. We'll check each of these currency pairs and see what's going on and update our list. Starting with the Euro Yen and Swiss Yen, let's see what those new trades are doing. As of yesterday, on the 1 hour chart, we had a trend line break, and it didn't do much after that. It's kind of retraced a bit after the trend line was broken. Our other reasons for getting in the trade were that this was a Class A demand zone with divergence and a big demand zone here, and a color change of the triangular moving average. We did not, however, have a buy bubble before this trade set up. So I'm not actually in this yet. I haven't sent a signal. I'm still waiting for some signs of life from this pair. And if you haven't gotten in this trade yet, I would suggest, for example, drawing a trend line above this recent little downtrend in price and just wait first to see a close above that before getting into the trade. On the other hand, at this point in time, if you were to get in this, we have a little bit better stop loss than we had yesterday. It's down to 101 pips, whereas when we were looking at it yesterday, when it was closing above this line, it was 136. So you could conceivably wait for it to retrace a little bit more. You could go ahead and get into it right now. You could wait for it to close above this trend line for some more confirmation. You could even see if you wanted to wait for a buy bubble to form, if this is going to drop significantly or not. And of course, I don't know what's going to happen. In either case, you size your position so that you're risking 1% or less of your account on this trade. And we can go after the profit targets that we talked about yesterday. Now, one thing that's interesting is since prices dropped, and we have a 100 pip stop or 99 pip stop or 100 pip stop for the current price, the monthly pivot has now become a good first target. It's 136 pips, so you could use that for your initial profit target. You could be a little bit more conservative about the setup. You could have a second profit target at the July monthly pivot instead of all the way up here at that weekly pivot. So there are possibilities to take profit with good risk to reward ratios earlier on in the trade. So I'm going to leave that as new. I'm not quite ready to get in it myself, but it's certainly set up. It's valid according to our rules, and it's given us the amount of confirmation we would need to go ahead and get into a trade on the pair. Along with this, we were looking at the Swiss yen yesterday. This is also dropped, right? It broke out. We had a Class A zone, trend line break, no buy bubble, and it's dropping towards the stop level. If you're not yet in this trade, as with the euro yen, I would draw a trend line above the recent downward movement price and wait for some additional confirmation to get in. I'm not quite ready to get into this myself. And one possibility is that we would wait for a buy bubble, wait for this top band to go below the triangular moving average and back up again before we get into this trade. I don't know if we're going to get a band before it would move up, but we might. Also with this pair, like the euro yen, we can be a little bit more conservative about profit targets because it's moved down. At this point, if we got in the trade, we need a 51 pip stop. The current monthly pivot would be 171 pips. Last month's monthly pivot would be 238. So we could even be more conservative about profit targets if we want to. I'm going to leave that as new, though. I'm still not quite ready to get into a trade on this pair. Just looking at the other yen trades, we can see, for example, the pound yen. This broke out Class A zone, buy a bubble, moved up, hit the current weekly pivot, and now it's dropping towards its, if we set a stop on this pair, it's moving towards that right now. I would wait for probably the next setup on this pair because the pound has a lot of downward pressure on it anyway at this point. And I would steer clear of this for now. But I do think it's something that's worth watching. So I'm going to put it on the watch list. So pound yen buy. New yen is kind of similar, not quite the same, but there's no bubble on this. We had a Class B zone here, a triangular moving average color change, and a trend line break. Price moved higher, now it's moving lower. Still like this trade, but I'm still watching at this point. Not quite ready to commit to more of these trades because they seem to be losing energy pretty rapidly at this point. And one way to kind of confirm that I like to confirm entry timing is to draw these trend lines. And if I get a break above, then that might convince me to go ahead and think about getting in a trade on this pair. At present, the required stop loss would be about 70 pips if we put a stop below the recent low here. So if we give us a little bit more time to show us what we need, we'll still have a good stop loss, I think, when the trade finally takes off. Pound yen, New yen. What else was I looking at? I think it was just those four. Yeah, those are our new additional yen trades we're looking at. See, these are moving lower right now. I'm not ready to get into this. We're already in 3 of these yen trades at this point in time. And if I'm going to add more, I need to see additional confirmation that indeed we're in a trend that's moving up. So I'm going to wait for that to happen before I take additional risk on yen pairs at this point in time. And speaking of our other pairs that we're in, let's look at the dollar yen, CAD yen, and Aussie yen. The dollar yen broke out strongly. It moved higher. We had Class B divergence here. It hasn't dropped as precipitously as the other pairs. We do have a down bubble here. but we have a positive triangular moving average. There's no reason to get out of this trade at this point. We're still headed towards the monthly pivot, the current monthly pivot in my opinion. It's just retracing a little bit. We have a generous amount of room between current price and the stop. So I would just hold on and wait for this pair to move higher at this point. So dollar yen is still open in the buy direction. Let's look at the Canadian dollar yen. This broke higher. Again, it's dropped a little bit lower. It hasn't really dropped as much as, for example, the pound yen is dropping, or some of these other pairs are dropping right now for some reason. So I would hold on to it. I'm still wanting to get at least to the monthly pivot, current monthly pivot on this pair. And I just think it's a matter of time. Just as a habit, I like to, when I have moves like this, I like to draw a little trend line so you can see each time they're broken as it moves up. And that's just part of the rhythm of a trend. And at this point in time, I have no reason to believe that we're not still trending, and this isn't just a retracement on the way up. And finally, Aussie yen. We hit our first target yesterday. I sent a signal to close this trade not close it, but to close part of the trade and move the stop to break even. So your stop should be at break even now. You should have already taken some profit at this initial profit target. Now this pair is consolidating a bit. It's ranging, moving sideways. I'm expecting it to break out higher and go towards our final profit target at the weekly pivot from 2 weeks ago. And again, if you want to, you can draw a little trend line here just to kind of indicate the point in time when we do get a breakout and the next move in the trend direction after this consolidation. And we did have a little sell bubble here, but this pair doesn't seem to really care about that sell bubble. Triangular moving average is still blue. And if we get a breakout over this trend line in the buy direction in the next few hours, I'll consider that this pair wants to continue to trend, especially if we make a higher high on the way. All right, so that's all yen pairs. No new signals on the other yen pairs just yet, but like I said, when I do see something happening and some additional indication that we're starting to see a stronger trend breaking out and across all the yen pairs, I will probably send additional signals. And at that point in time, I will also commit in my live account to taking some of these trades, but not yet. All right, dollar peso sell. We had an open trade on that pair. Let's take a look at what's going on. This has continued to move towards its final profit target. We made a new low recently in the last couple of hours. This is just doing very well. We do have a buy bubble forming here. That hasn't yet turned into a trade. We don't have anything else that we need. We do have Class B divergence and a buy bubble that's starting, but the buy bubble hasn't closed yet. We haven't had this dotted line close back above the triangular moving average, and we haven't had a triangular moving average color change. So I'm still in this trade. We don't have an opposite direction Class A zone, for example, or some other closed signal happening. But if either of those things happen, if we get a triangular moving, if we get a Class A demand zone down here with divergence and a blue box together, or we see a color change in the triangular moving average, that would be a close signal. We'd get out even before this profit target. But at this point in time, according to our rules, according to our indicators, we're still in. This is still trending, and we're on our way to the final profit target, which is this weekly pivot from 3 weeks ago, 18.4425. Euro dollar sell, that's the next one we're looking at. And this has been consolidating a bit. This is the 1 hour chart. This pair broke down nicely, gave us a good entry signal. Class A supply zone, trend line break, sell bubble. Although I don't know if this was a sell bubble, I think, at the time of the entry, after, even before it repainted and started to move down. And a triangular moving average color change. So we had all this indication. This has done exactly what it told us it would do. It's moved lower. It hit our initial profit target with this big drop here. Retrace. It's still consolidating sideways. So we're waiting for more downward motion. If we get, and it's kind of difficult because we're in this huge, kind of silly demand zone down here that's almost too big to be useful. But if we get a triangular moving average color change, that might be an indication to go ahead and take profit and get out of the trade. But this may also break lower and continue to move towards the final profit target. So at present, for me, this trade is still open. There's no reason, according to our rules, to get out of this trade at this point. Next, we have a New Z dollar sell. Oh yeah, and stop is a break even, right? So we took profit here on part of the position, moved the stop to break even. And now with no risk, we're going towards the final profit target for additional profit. New Z dollar sell. This is the next trade we've been in, and this again, it's hit its initial profit target. We moved the stop to break even. It's retraced a bit, but we're still in this trade. There's not a buy bubble. There's not a triangular moving average color change. There's not a opposite direction class A zone. There's no reason to get out, so we're just staying in. We're riding out this bit of volatility here and looking for it to move lower beyond this recent low to our final profit target. Dollar Swiss buy, that's the next one. And this is just perfect, right? It broke out, gave us a good signal, class A signal, plus we had a buy bubble, and we had triangular moving average color change, trend line break, and then it's just moved very regularly towards its first profit target and second profit target. And now we're waiting for this. We've had class B divergence, which I don't really pay any attention to. I find it's usually a false signal, as it was here, and it's here. If it appeared with a supply zone, I would pay attention and probably go ahead and close the trade, but it hasn't, so we're just going to ignore it. We do have a little sell bubble forming here. I'm going to go ahead and mark that. So we're aware of it, but I don't see anything else telling me that it's time to close this trade or even sell the pair. So we're still going for the final profit target up here at the weekly pivot from 3 weeks ago. And this trade is still open. Okay, we'll get into our euro trades. Our pound trades. We've had some developments on those. Sadly, our euro pound trade closed at break even. If you recall, I have a long-term view on these pound trades. It hasn't been cooperating for the last couple of weeks with me, so but I continue to have that view that if we look at a 4 hour chart, you can still see it. We had the Brexit breakout. We had a retracement where we hit an initial profit target, moved our stops to break even on these positions. We were going for the monthly pivot from July. And since then, we've had this trend moving in the opposite direction, moving to retest the high made after the Brexit shock. And it's continued to do that. And yesterday it hit the break even stop and closed the position. So now what's happening is it's back into this class A supply zone. It's starting to show sell signals. We had a sell bubble here. We're creating another sell bubble here. I would like to trade this all over again. I'm probably not going to do it right away. I'm going to need to see quite a bit of confirmation before I'll do that. But I do want to sell this pair again. I do want to sell it towards the monthly pivot here, and I would reuse the targets we used before when this trade does set up. At this point in time, I don't see any evidence that the trend is breaking. And I might even just to be really, really patient with the next entry, wait for the signal on the 4-hour chart instead. What does that mean? That means that I'm going to wait for this triangular moving average to change color to red on the 4-hour chart. And as long as this zone is here, this is a class A zone on the 4-hour chart too. As long as this zone is here and I have a triangular moving average color change here and a trend line break on the 4-hour chart, I'll consider setting up a next trade down. But that would mean that we'd be waiting longer for the entry after we get some positive moves, because it's going to take longer for this change to happen on the 4-hour chart. But I think we can be a little bit more confident in it as well. So I do have a bias and sell direction on this pair. We're not in a place quite yet where I'd want to do it yet. We just stopped out at break even. So I'm going to be watching this though. So euro pound sell. This is actually a win. Let's not forget that this is a winning trade. And for the initial part of the position we closed, we made 198 pips on that. And then I'm going to put this this setup on the watching portion of our watch list. Not ready to trade it yet, but I do want to keep watching it because I'm committed to that idea. I'm committed to being there, being ready, and getting into a trade when that move does happen. Okay, pound CAD buy. Oh, the pound Aussie is the other one that closed. Let's look at that real quick. The pound Aussie hit its stop, so we took a little loss on this. The loss was I don't know if that's right or not. I think it is though. Yeah, so it's actually pretty big. It's 218, but we had a very small trade size, so we were still risking less than 1% of our position. In fact, I think it was way less than 1% in actual fact. But this would be minus 218 for this setup, if I'm right. I think I am. Yep. So we took a small loss on that. That's okay. My view on this is still long term. I want to get to this, back to this July monthly pivot. We had a similar move as to the other pairs, but the Aussie pair, for some reason, they didn't move as strongly towards the initial profit target. So this never quite made it there before it dropped, and now it's made a new low, lower than the Brexit drop. It's tested that and broken through it. So it could be headed to lower lows before it gives us anything. Interestingly, on the 4-hour chart, we have a buy bubble forming. On the 1-hour chart, we also have a buy bubble forming. So we're seeing signs of a potential buy trade setting up already, which means we have to be attentive and ready to take a trade when it sets up. Now, what am I looking for to get into a trade? A buy bubble would be great. A new class A demand zone would be great. And a trend line break and a color change in the triangular moving average. I want to see probably all 4 of those before I'll commit. So I'm going to be extra careful now that I've stopped at once. This is a retrade. I'm going to be extra careful and conservative about getting into the next one. But I am watching this, and I do want to trade it. So pound Aussie buy was on our list to watch. Right now, The last three here are still open. Let's start with the pound CAD buy. See what that's doing. All three of these have a stop at break even. So there's no risk on this, and we've already taken profit on part of the trade. Pound CAD buy moving lower to this zone here. That demand zone is a class B demand zone. It hasn't had divergence appear yet. We had a buy bubble here. The pair moved up, has moved down again. So the buy bubble's impact wasn't sustained. This pair may bounce off of this zone and go higher again. We may be in a ranging position. If all these pairs continue to drop lower, this may break through this zone and continue to move towards the break-even stop. But at this point in time, I don't have any risk on this portion of the position, so I'm holding on and hoping that this will sustain itself until we get a reversal towards our July monthly pivot. And these long-term ideas, they're tricky. I can say anecdotally that, generally speaking, when we have a big drop like this, that it retraces. But there have been a lot of fundamental things that happen with this pair too that will take time to work themselves out, especially if the Brexit is a very complex thing. And they cut interest rates on the pound. But if you look at the Swissy crash from January 2 years ago, that's a similar kind of thing. And we had a big drop, and then within 3 or 4 months, it had returned to its previous pre-drop level. And we aren't at 3 months yet. We're about a month and some change since the Brexit. Yeah, a month, and we're in the second week. So 6 weeks out from this drop. And I think that we're going to see a move back up, at least to this monthly pivot. So I'm going to be ready to do that on the 4-hour chart. If I'm going to watch the entry there, be real conservative about it, I can draw a trend line over price like that. And I can even use that trend line or something like it on the 1-hour chart to try to think about an entry. I mean, not an entry, but just confirmation that it's going to move higher. So we're still in that trade. And next, we got a pound Newsy open. This pair has also moved lower. We're seeing we had a sell bubble here, buy bubble here. We may be headed towards a new buy bubble. We're getting class B divergence. We don't have a new class A demand zone. We do have a demand zone down here that could be class A. If I shrink that back, that's currently a class B zone. So we're not quite to the point of a reversal, but I'm anticipating one. We're seeing signs that this pair is starting to say, hey, it's time to think about moving in the other direction. But so far, the market is still very bearish on these pound pairs and on the pound in general. And it's moving down. So until we have a new catalyst that's going to break us higher and is going to switch the commitment of traders to the buy direction, I think we're going to continue to see this move lower. The stop is at break even. We've already taken partial profit. We have no risk on this trade. I have decided that I'm going to hold on and try to go for that larger profit target with the remainder of this trade. Pound Swiss buy, that's the next one. Now this, interestingly, has set up a class A, well, an additional class A signal on this demand zone. We had a class A zone here when the trade started on the 1-hour chart. Or no, when the trade started. This was just the most recent bit of it, when it broke out before the recent interest rate announcement. The entire thing is here, right? This is the Brexit drop, much larger. It created a class A zone here. On the breakout and trendline break, we took a buy trade, hit the first profit target, moved sideways, did not advance the monthly pivot, moved downwards. We had a color change in the triangular moving average, and then it's continued to move lower. On the 1-hour chart, though, we've had recent volatility around the announcement last week of the interest rate cut by the Bank of England. This pair has moved higher, showed divergence, dropped, left a class A supply zone here, and now it's producing a class A demand zone. If this doesn't break through this and go lower, and it moves higher, we could be setting up for a ranging market on this pair, or we could see a full recovery breakout, and again going towards our final profit target of the July monthly pivot up here. If this stops at a break even like the other pound pairs, I'm committed to retrying in that direction when I have an appropriate signal. So we're not there yet. The pound Swiss is kind of getting close to that. We'll just see what happens. We've already taken partial profit on the pair, on the trade, and our stop is at break even, so there's no risk on this at all. All right, so that's where we're at right now. We've had a few things close out, a few more things we're watching. Nothing has really changed to give me new signals this week. I did send a signal yesterday on the Aussie yen to go ahead and move the stop break even and take partial profit. That's the only thing that's happened so far this week. So what am I looking at that's new? That's a good question. Let's see. Got this euro pound sell, which is interesting. Pound Aussie buy is giving a buy bubble here, but it's still moving lower. Pound dollar might also be setting up a buy signal here. That's something we need to watch. We got a new buy bubble coming up. It's returning to this zone down here, making lower lows. I think we can go ahead and put a trend line on this pair and start to anticipate a potential buy entry. Pound dollar, even though this pair is really bearish right now. So the two things I really like are the euro pound sell, or not the euro pound sell. Which one was it? Yeah, the pound dollar buy. There was something else I was looking at. Yeah, I think at this point in time, all I want to throw up on the chart is probably the pound dollar buy. Let's just put that on the watch list as an additional potential trade. We'll just keep watching that. Yeah, that's all the updates I have for today. I want to check and see if there's any questions. We've kind of gone over time. I apologize for that. There was a lot to talk about, and I do love to talk. Check the chat room. There's no questions. If you have any questions, like I said, please post to the group, send me a private message via the community. Just find me in members. I'm EZFX. And you can use the private message function to message me, or you can just send me an email to ezfxsignal@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the next edition of the trifecta of the live trading room for EZFX. And I look forward to seeing you there. Take care. See you tomorrow.